You're probably wondering, much like me, why I'm standing here telling you about 1864. What are my credentials for that? I'll have you know that I was a teenage father of Confederation, supervised by Joan Cumming, who's here tonight. And she can attest to what a quality father of Confederation I was. Certainly, I was a free agent on the streets of Charlottetown, interacting with the public and really gathering the preconceptions of the public about what happened here in 1864. I'll have you warned that when you wear wool in August in Charlottetown, you smell historically accurate by the end of the day. Oftentimes people were brave to approach me and to hear about what had happened here. But it was a very interesting process to be on the streets of Charlottetown, and it is that 1864 Charlottetown Conference that we're celebrating in 2014. The official word for this is the sesquicentennial. Just in case that comes up in the crossword, very important one, running right across the middle. The sesquicentennial is the 150th anniversary of the Charlottetown Conference that happened here in 1864. Anything celebrating 150 years is a sesquicentennial. Cart that out at a cocktail party. Now, there are some misconceptions or some things that I certainly forget from time to time about 1864. And one of the things I'm going to do tonight is maybe just provide a few reminders of what happened here, how it connects to Canadian history. So some of the themes behind the celebration. First of all, this is a clip from the Ottawa Citizen just 2 years back, declaring the Confederation was the most significant event in the country's history, a national poll shows. So Canadians, this truly resonates. On a poll, it was marked as one of the milestones in our entire history, above Tommy Douglas and even the World Wars. But what's interesting is when you look at the picture that runs above the masthead, Confederation in 1867 is the single most important event in Canada's history. In 1867, and the picture is from, anyone? 1864. 1864 here in Charlottetown. So it's even easy for us as Canadians, even easy for the Ottawa Citizen to get a little bit confused. So it's important for us to have a sense of our own history. One of the things that I got to do when I was a father of Confederation, and later I moved to the big house. I worked at Province House, and it was interesting when Americans came to visit. Well, it was always interesting. They wanted to know how much the building weighed a lot of the time. But in any event, one of the things that's different about Canadian history is sometimes they wanted to know if this is the birthplace of Confederation, is it here that there was an official break with the Queen? Was it a revolution? Was it an insurrection? And one of the interesting things about our history is that it wasn't. And we had to explain that a bit. You might see these license plates around the countryside in the summertime. New Hampshire, it's very intense, the whole idea of independence in the States. Live free or die. You know, we're Canadians, so we'd probably say, what are the other options? Is it just the two? We'd have a license plate a bit more like this, maybe. Well, if things are working, we'll leave them alone. Maybe we'll evolve and discuss and dialogue. It's a very different history, and one that we're celebrating here in 2014. So first of all, what are some of the themes that might come up in conversation? We're thinking historically, we're going to recreate or point back or just really be in 1864. And really, we want to connect the themes from that time to very contemporary and very relevant celebrations. First of all, what are some of those dates that we should keep in mind? The Charlottetown Conference itself happened between September the 1st and September the 9th in 1864 here in Charlottetown. And it was there that that idea of Confederation, a broader Canadian Union, was first expressed. The idea was born here, but we're in Canada, so let's agree to meet again. Let's agree to extend it a little bit. There was a further meeting of many of the Fathers of Confederation, not even all the same fathers, in Quebec, October the 10th to the 27th in 1864, where they furthered that idea, put pen to paper, and extended. Then they went all across the pond. It is a Canadian process. It's going to take a while. To London in 1867, where they met between 1866 in December all the way to March 1867, and finally signed the Dominion of Canada into being. In fact, that word Dominion was a new word, especially, I guess, plucked from Scripture to describe what Canada would be. It was deemed to be ill-advised for Canada to be a kingdom because we're a bit close to the USA and they don't like kingdoms. So Samuel Tilly came up with that idea, dominion, from Scripture to describe this new entity that would bridge from sea to shining sea. One of the themes we might express tonight is, what is it in 1864 that had to do with coming up with the idea of Canada? How can we keep that idea going? How can we keep that conversation happening? Also, how can we allow 1864 to connect to 1867, making sure that our celebration, beginning here in 2014, carries all the way through to 2017 and the sesquicentennial of 1867. Some other ideas to express. The Charlottetown Conference was a meeting that really changed its topic in midstream. This picture here is William Henry Pope rowing out to meet the Upper Canadian and Lower Canadian delegates who were arriving and were stranded in the middle of the harbor because there was a circus in Charlottetown at the time, and everyone was very excited about the Slaymaker and Nichols Olympic Circus, so they left the Upper Canadians and Lower Canadians stranded, brought them in by a rowboat just to the foot of Peaks Quay, and fun was had from there on in, as you can imagine. By the way, if we mention Lower Canada and Upper Canada, this is something that I got wrong frequently in junior high school on social studies tests. Just be aware, I don't know why they did this, but Upper Canada is actually lower than Lower Canada. On the mimeograph tests, I often got that wrong 3 years in a row, so just bear that in mind. They're the present-day colonies or parts of Quebec and Ontario. So one of the things to commemorate about 1864 is the special role that Charlottetown had in being open to a meeting first about maritime union that would expand and that would welcome guests. Some of the few writings we have are from the letters of George Brown, an Upper Canadian delegate. The members were entertained at luncheon in princely style. The ice became completely broken, and the tongues of the delegates wagged merrily. So when we're thinking about things to celebrate, hospitality and celebration, what special role do we have as a province in welcoming people and allowing them to converse, to enjoy, and to come up with new ideas? Who were the Fathers of the Confederation? I bet if we went around the room, you know, maybe we'd tap out at about 5 or 6 of them. Maybe some of you see them on labels at local establishments from time to time. George Coles is now a cream ale in Charlottetown. It's not bitter at the end, and neither was he. Sometimes he had his differences with Confederation, but never bitter in the end. It's interesting to think about these individuals who came together. They were community innovators. George Coles, he was a master brewer in the community, and he also experimented with early steam power. So how can we celebrate our innovations now and give them a special place in 2014? Another thing that we can think about is that in 1864, there were people of different opinion coming together. Many of the founders of our country were completely against the whole idea. George Coles, who we mentioned, he was for it. He thought it might resolve some of the land questions here on PEI, but then it turned out that that didn't seem to be on the table anymore, turned against it. Edward Palmer, recognized as a father of Confederation, was against it. He was against land reform. He was against responsible government. He was against the better terms offered to PEI in 1869 and spent the rest of his life being against things. But how in 2014 can we pick up on that idea of bringing people with different points of view together and talking in a new way? Speaking of taking a different point of view, PEI hosted in 1864, but we didn't eventually join until 1873. Many of you might have this license plate nailed to your barn or your outbuilding on the property somewhere. PEI, the place to be in 73, with the recognizable top hat and smiling chid-strap beard. We celebrate our centennial 9 years after the Charlottetown Conference, the centennial of our joining Canada. We hosted, but we didn't join. I think one thing we can talk about when we celebrate in 2014 is, what role does PEI have within Canada? Why didn't we join initially? Why didn't we join the Confederation when we first hosted? And what is our place within Canada moving forward as we connect to this massive country and try to find our place within it? So just a few more things to mention, hopefully to stoke the conversation and broaden the question. Some of you might remember 1964 and how we celebrated that centenary kind of time for the conference. You might recognize some of these buildings right on our doorstep. The Confederation Center, which was opened in 1964 to commemorate the Charlottetown Conference. Some of those tokens of commemoration, coins and stamps, crafts and pieces of art. But I think also broaden that. In 1964, an exciting program that happened across the island was the designation of centennial farms, farms that had been in continuous operation for 100 years. So when you think about 2014, it's not all about history. It's about connecting to our current industries, to those engines of growth that we have in our province now, bringing new people into contact with what's happening here. We also want that to be meaningful for today's youth, to really have those entering into society and into education now have a real appreciation for what happened here. This is a story that's been in the news. You might have picked up on it. This is Ms. Morrison's grade 8 class from Montague Intermediate on the steps of Fanning Bank, recreating that famous picture from 1864. What they did is they created an entire video and entered it in a national contest. Those themes of education and the next generation, other ideas which you might thread in and talk about this evening. I'll just show you a quick 1-minute clip of the video they put together, and I think you'll be really impressed with the quality of energy and the quality of creativity that they've brought to it.
I, Johnny MacDonald, represent Upper Canada, and we can work together to form a great nation. And each province would have its own government to oversee local affairs. And united, we would have one federal government.
Je représente le Bas-Canada. Le Canada veut participer à la conférence pour proposer une union plus vaste qui regrouperait toute la colonie de l'Amérique du Nord britannique.
On Saturday, when the conference adjourned, the members were entertained at luncheon in princely style. Cartier and I made eloquent speeches, of course, and whether as a result of our eloquence or the goodness of our champagne, the ice became completely broken, the tongues of the delegates wagged merrily, and the bands of matrimony between all the provinces of British North America having been formally proclaimed. On Wednesday, the conference gave the Canadian delegates their answer. They were unanimous in regarding a federation of the provinces. It was agreed that the conference should stand adjourned.
Premier, is it true that it wasn't just business at the conference?
It is true, because this is Prince Edward Island. There was seaside excursions, there was dinners every night, there was even a grand ball, so they had a great time while they were here. Anyway, I've got to head back to work, so good luck with your tour and have a great day.
Thanks very much.
So certainly an exciting project for those youth, and hopefully one that enters them into conversation with classrooms in Alberta and across the country. The 2014 office is really a facilitator for those initiatives that are going to roll out across the island in this unique and special year. So the idea is that those festivities and events are really at the community level, and that the 2014 office is going to help those ideas to be catalyzed, to come into being. It might be expanding existing events or new events that really pick up on the themes of that 150th anniversary. So it really builds from where we are here tonight all the way up. It starts with the ideas that you express, these community ideas. The funds will go to community organizations. So those ideas that you come up with, they could be existing events that connect in a special way to that year of celebration, or they could be entirely new events that you, your organization, or your community come up with for the 150th. From there are some criterion developed that there'll be a call for community partnerships in fall 2012 at the earliest. So the ideas are to come from this level of ideas up to the level of partnership. And things to think about as the ideas get defined are, who are the people who would be involved from your organization? What might be some of the plans that you would have to be most respectful, to be integral to the idea that you have? And what are some of the means of support that you might have? Whether those are human resources or some capital resources to make that project happen. The 2014 office is listening to how it can help implement those ideas. So at the level where your partnership is defined, the call might come, and the two can join together to build that bridge from both sides and to make the funding that's available really have a double effect by being connected to relevant community events that already have momentum behind them, that are going to be sustainable and exciting on a community level. In the end, that bottom-up process results in the most broadly based and the most relevant community celebration island-wide, and I think we're all here in support of that idea tonight. So just to reiterate, the ideas and goals expressed here tonight are where it all begins, and they're essential. PEI 2014 will be the festival that community groups make it, and that energy is pivotal to its success. The motto is a very good one and a very direct one, hopefully one that guides your conversations tonight. How can we honor the past, celebrate the present, and plan a bold tomorrow for PEI, and to make that relevant for our broad country? PEI 150 is on the web, so you can pick up on some of the activity that's been happening. This is the email address for the PEI 150 office. And also there's an online campaign extended to Facebook and Twitter to keep up to date with daily and weekly developments.